me. Woo! Welcome, welcome. I know you guys don't see me, do you? But now you do. Ready? Welcome to the Rev Mel Show on TSRnetwork.com, where real people talk about real sex with really kinky people. I am so excited about the show. A lot has been going on. I taught this weekend at the Lizbeth Dusseau, and it was awesome. I had an amazing time. And I'm not drinking tonight. There is Miss Friday in the chat room, and there are other people that are watching. If you are watching this show, please come to TSR Network, click on the chat room, come on in, and ask some questions, because I have been waiting. And I say her last name wrong because it is an amazing last name, and she understands that I'm dyslexic and kind of, you know, crazy, so she understands that I will not be able to pronounce it, which is okay, and I'm going to give it my best shot. Are you guys ready for this? I want to introduce my guest, and let me do a little bit. Let me go to her profile, okay? I'm going to go to her website, and I'm going to scroll up, and her first erotic novel was Alexander's Awakening, published in 1990. She is in the BDSM lifestyle. She has a brand new book that is coming out that is called Spontaneous Combustion. She is in the lifestyle. She writes about the lifestyle. She is an amazing writer, and she is the co-founder of Pink Flamingo Publishing Company, and they publish and they publish and they publish. So if you've got any questions and you're watching the show and you want to know what it feels like to be a publisher, what they look for, and if you want to know about her book, and she's going to read a little bit of her book for us today, and I'm really excited. So I want to introduce my guest. My guest is Lizbeth, and it's not Elizabeth, it's Lizbeth. Okay, are you ready? You're going to have to help me. Whatever.
Lizbeth Dusseau.
What is it again?
Lizbeth Dusseau.
So, see, I should have asked her, but I was having problems with the internet, so we didn't have time. Normally I say, can you please pronounce it for me? And in the chat room, we have Gracie who's just come in the chat room. Please send this out to all your friends, because this is going to be a really informative and fun show. So I want to ask everybody in the chat room, how is it in the video? Please type in yes, yes, yes. I know there's a little bit of delay, so I'll wait for that, but I am so excited, and I have your website up, and you have it so big on your website about the show. I'm excited about this. So let's talk about, how did you get started in writing? I mean, how did you, was it your desire to always be a writer?
I think so. I was a little timid about it at the beginning, and in about 1986, my kids were at the point where I could do something else with my time, and I just got a typewriter out because there weren't computers at that particular time. I got a typewriter out and I started typing and started trying to come up with some stories, and it wasn't very easy for me to do. But in about 1988, I was coming to terms with my sexuality, and I had this book in my head that somebody said, well, why don't you just write it down? And I said, well, it's probably going to be kind of pornographic, and they said, just go ahead and do it. And that's when I began to write Alexander's Awakening, which I actually wrote by hand. We had just moved back to Michigan, and I was sitting in my in-laws' backyard writing pornography in a blue notebook.
I was so impressed that you were in Michigan. I mean, I freaked out when I saw, I think, it's not Kalamazoo, but it's near Kalamazoo, correct? Or is it Kalamazoo?
Very close to Kalamazoo, yes.
Yeah, because I'm a Michigan girl, you know, home.
That's what I hear, yeah.
You can see the skin. Us Michigan girls have this, you know, fabulous skin. And Michigan's a great place to grow up. They said in the chat room that the sound is loud and clear. Fabulous.
Oh,
and you know, this is our chat room. I want to put out to you guys, if you are not in the chat room, because there's so many people that are watching that have not entered into the chat room yet. If you are watching this, please come in the chat room, and also, you know, please feel free in the chat room to ask questions, to add in your comments. This is live, and you will have your comments, talked over. They're not airwaves. Are they video waves? I don't know. I don't have a clue. But so how many books have you written?
I don't really have an exact count, but it's somewhere around 130.
130
novels, yes.
Erotic novels?
Erotic novels, yeah. Erotic novels or story collections. But I think it's probably over that. I just haven't done an accurate count.
Okay.
Recently.
When I wrote my book, The Erotic Diary of a Beverly Hills Woman, which is now changed to The Education of Tyler because I've added 4 BDSM stories to it. I'm taking it off the market. But I used to get really horny. I used to get so horny writing, this book that I had to stop in the middle of it. Literally stop. I mean, how do you not get horny? And
well, if I'm not horny, then I shouldn't be writing.
So that was a good thing.
Exactly. And I take breaks too. Usually about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's my standard time to, take a break.
And how many hours a day do you write when you're working on a book? Because
when I'm actually working on a book, it depends. I have worked as long as 8 hours a day on it. More likely, it's probably about 3 or 4. At least right now, that's the kind of pace that I'm at right now. So I've slowed down.
So how do you discipline yourself to do that? Because I know there's a lot of people that might be watching this and that will watch this in the future, because we go on YouTube and it stays up there forever, and it stays up there forever on TSR Network. How do you stay motivated to keep on writing? I mean, I let other things get in my way. How do you discipline yourself?
Well, part of it is my business. I'm a writer. This is what supports my life. I don't have anything else, so I better be writing or I'm not going to have an income. That's part of it. And I guess I'm used to it over the years. The stories kind of propel me forward. I want to write the stories. I enjoy writing them. I enjoy the characters. It's like walking into another world and spending some time there and enjoying myself, and then I go out and have the rest of my life. But it's really not very hard for me to write for several hours a day. It's just an easy thing to do. Hello there.
Hello. Welcome.
Hi.
I'm glad that you're still there. That means the show's still going on. If that ever happens again, just keep on talking.
I wasn't really sure what to do.
That was hysterical. Basically, my computer crashed, and I have a really, really expensive broadcasting computer.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, it just crashed, and my mouth went like this. go wrong with the internet can go wrong, and you know, so if that happens again, please keep talking. You know.
Okay. I wasn't sure whether I could be heard or not, so.
Yeah, it's still live. So if I'm going to open up the chat room, so if you give me a couple seconds, I need to open up the chat room again and see if the people are still there. We still have lots of viewers that are watching, so I guess it's still, you know, the host left. What can go wrong can go wrong. I never get stressed out about this stuff. There we are. Hello. Okay, do you guys still have the sound? I'm making sure everything is good. Is it okay? Hello? Hello? I'm going to type in. This is funny. And we were on a roll. It was going so good. Let me close some of this stuff down, and maybe that's the reason why. You know, you never know why things happen. But I'm not stressed out about it. There we go. Yes, they're still there. Woo, 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 woo. Okay, thank you so much for watching the show. I do not know what happened, but it's okay. We are back, and we are back live. And that gives us an excitement. I really wish I had a drink now, but I don't. So what we're doing is we're talking about. So I think you have to be very highly disciplined to be able to write so many books. A lot of people can't do it. There's very few people that can say that they've written that many books. You need to know that.
Well, I have a very active muse, and I think I just sort of turned it on, and it just kept churning them out. And not so much anymore. I'm sort of getting to that sort of semi-retirement stage in my career, but that's okay too. The last book I wrote, I took about 7 months to write, which is very unusual for me. I was writing books at the pace of about one a month when I first started, and then I went to about one every 2 months, and it slowed down a lot in the last few years.
So you can write a book in a couple of months. It took me a year to write. It took me a year to write my book, and I was horny all the time. I'll tell you a funny teeny little story, and then we'll stop off of my book because we don't need to talk about me. So my daughter edited it for me because I'm severely dyslexic, and she's edited the book, okay? And she says to me, she goes, "Mom," she says, "is this book true?" And I looked at her, and I didn't say anything, and she's reading, and she starts to laugh, and she's laughing. I says, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, I know it's not true. I'm tall and thin with long blonde hair. I mean, I'm not tall and I wasn't thin." So she kind of, you know, that was her joke. She knew immediately that it was true. So, but we could be anything we want in our books.
Exactly. That's what's so fun about it, is taking a character, creating it, and becoming somebody else. Kind of like an actor on a stage, only I do it in words.
But you've taken this even farther than just writing. You've taken this into starting a company, a publishing company. And how many authors have you published?
I really don't know. I'm sure we have published over 100, and right now we have over 50 that we are publishing currently. So it's a lot of authors, and we have a lot more that come in all the time. New authors are coming out all the time. This is a great period of time for writing erotica. There's a lot of people doing it.
Do you think that 50 Shades of Grey has helped the erotic exposure and have helped us get out of the closet?
I honestly don't know. I would think it would have, because it reached a lot of people. And I think there were a lot of people that decided to write because of the success of that book. But I'm really not sure whether it's, I don't know. Right now, there's kind of and I mentioned this just briefly, there's sort of censorship going on with a lot of the more edgy erotica that's being written, and some of the bigger retailers are banning some of the books that are have been accepted before in the marketplace. So it's kind of a disturbing trend to see that.
I didn't know that. I haven't heard about that. So they're censoring erotic work?
Yeah, in fact, we've had a lot of books that have been either banned, or we have to change write-ups or covers, or we've even had to change titles. Certain words like slave are words that we don't use very often on some of the bigger retailers, and I won't name names, but I think you can kind of guess who they are. And it's kind of a corporate censorship is what's been going on, and it's very disturbing because it seems to me like a free speech issue, but you know, these companies feel the right to be able to do that.
Well, we've lost a lot of freedom in our speech. We have to be really careful because that is who we are. I mean, if we don't have freedom of speech and the ability to write books and write articles and write stories, and to have our performance artist that does you know, stuff with BDSM. So we're going to get back to it, but let's talk about your BDSM.
Okay.
On the subject about banning and slaves.
Uh-huh.
So you discovered BDSM, and can you tell me your first memory of how you discovered this?
My fantasy I started with spanking fantasies when I was 4 years old. And they were pretty disturbing to me because the older I got, the more elaborate my fantasies got, the more they got edgier, they got into BDSM. And by the time I was a teenager, I was pretty conflicted about it. And there wasn't any place to go. There was no internet at that time. So I felt kind of lost and alone with this. And I was very grateful to have a partner who I could share these things with, and he accepted it all. He says, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you know, let's have fun with it. And we started to have fun with it very early in our marriage. And I think we were sort of 5 years in, the first writing crop ended up in our bedroom, and that was an interesting experience. So it's just something that kind of grew over time. And about 16 years ago, this was after you know, the internet was going, and I had a little bit more information about the BDSM lifestyle, and we started venturing into those things too, and had a lot of wonderful experiences.
And what is your name? What is your name on FetLife for people can you know, can add you as your friend?
I have a Lizbeth Dusseau account at FetLife. I also have a personal one, but I like to kind of keep that one kind of quiet. So anybody can contact me at on FetLife at Lizbeth Dusseau.
And your role in BDSM is what?
I'm a submissive, definitely.
You're such a strong woman. I mean, you know, you've created so much. I mean, you're very passionate in your writing, and you're also, you know, very successful in your company in publishing. I mean, it takes a very strong woman to do this. I mean, against all odds. And when you started, I mean, the stigma was even more against erotic writing.
You know, it seemed easier then than it is now for some strange reason. We started before the internet, and I was originally just selling mail order to people. We put ads in Romantic Times magazine and we put about spanking fiction, and spanking was the key word there. And then it got bigger. I continued to put, you know, more BDSM into the things I was doing, and it seemed pretty easy then. There wasn't anybody out there really judging. It wasn't until we got to onto the internet that it got kind of crazy sometimes. But it's worked. It's just a little bit at a time, and the business just got bigger and bigger.
Was there a risk by sending things through mail? It could have been considered obscenity.
We never really faced it except going into foreign countries. Canada was probably the worst. We had a few customers of ours that had some problems with the customs authorities, and a few of them quit ordering from us. But through the United States, we really haven't had any issue with that.
Yeah, because I know that there was a time period that if you put anything in that, because a lot of the dungeons, they have a form that you have to fill out in order to get into a dungeon, and then one of the forms says that, you know, you have to acknowledge the fact that if you're with the police, the police or with the Postal Service, because Postal Service can come in and investigate, and a lot of people have been closed down because of the Postal Service.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something that I didn't know, but we've not had an issue with any authorities at all in the time we've been doing the business, especially within the United States.
Do you do hardcover and ebooks?
We do paperback and we do ebooks both, and all of our books go into print as well as ebook.
How did things change for you when we went into ebooks? I mean, it changed the whole dynamics of publishing.
Well, we were one of the first. I think in 2000 we were one of a very different kind of reader, but it was a wonderful little system that somebody worked out, and we inherited it from them, and we started in 2000 with ebooks. It's morphed over the years because there have been different kinds of readers, and it's made the business bigger, but it's also made it more complicated. because we've had to keep up with all the different technology, and then when the big players came in, the Amazon and Google and Apple and everything, that changed it even more. So it's a matter of, it's just more difficult to keep up with all the changes and the shifts, but it also has opened up, I think far more people are interested in reading erotica because it's more private, and they don't have to worry about carrying around a book that somebody might see, or even their family might see.
What's been really amazing, I've been able to get a few ebooks that are on Amazon that were for free, that were erotica. That was their prelude to, if you like their writing, to be able to, you know, buy one of their books, their ebooks. I thought that was very clever.
Yeah, there's a lot of clever marketing out there, and we've tried it all, and you know, whatever works. It's the ebook market, I think, is something that's here to stay, especially with erotica. It's a big part of our business now.
How difficult was it managing the publishing company and writing? I mean, that had to take a big, heavy toll on you, and on the people that are around you also, because that's a very, I mean, really busy person can do that, and very organized.
It was working very well for a while. In about 2011, I actually sort of semi-retired. I was basically burned out because with all the changes in the shifting ebook market and trying to write at the same time, I was really not keeping up. So I just kind of walked away for a while, and I found somebody almost immediately that could take my place as the book editor, but I just sort of dropped it for a little while, and I've come back to it in this last year, and trying to take kind of a slower pace with it. I don't really need to write as much as I used to. The stories are, I want to spend more time with the kind of stories I'm putting out, and I think I'm more satisfied with my work now. So.
There's a smile on your face. There was this little glimmer of pride and joy. I know that you've had some tragic things that have happened in your life recently, and but you've also had some blessings. And we're not going to name names or anything like this, but you know, condolences. I know that you lost your husband and your mate, and
exactly.
My heart goes out to you.
Thank you.
He was also, you know, in the lifestyle with you and into BDSM, and also he was a business partner of yours also.
He was basically everything, you know, my lover, my husband, my friend, my master, my dom, whatever we wanted to call him on one particular day or not. I mean, sometimes he was dom, sometimes he wasn't, but we had a good working partnership and a good working marriage. Yeah. And I do miss him, but I'm a single woman for the first time in years and years, and that's an adventure. And it's an interesting adventure.
And you have been adventuring.
I have been adventuring. I have, yeah. I had a well, spontaneous combustion kind of says it all. About a year ago, I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't think I was ready to take the plunge, and I had one of those sort of magical internet things happen. Somebody came into my life kind of through my business, and we started emailing back and forth, and he put the spark back in. Just put the spark back in my life, and we took it from there, and have created it's a long distance relationship, which is probably as much as either of us need, but when we get together, it's definitely a blooming relationship, and it's something that I've enjoyed a great deal.
Did it put a spark back in your writing?
It did, because that's spontaneous combustion. The book is very much inspired by that. In fact, there's some scenes, there's some email conversations, there's some pieces that I wrote for him specifically that appear in the book. I'm not going to say which ones because it is fiction. I mean, the characters in the book are not this gentleman and myself, but it's very dear to my heart because it has so much of a personal part to it.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up and share with everybody your book cover. So if you give me a couple seconds to get the screen up. I think this book cover is amazing.
Thank you.
Book cover, I mean, it is, look at this. I mean, does this not show sensuality, emotions? I mean, it's beautiful to look at. I mean, I love the fact that it's in black and white. I mean, what made you decide to go into black and white and not into something that was color?
It was the image itself. When I was looking for I was looking for something that looked like spontaneous combustion, and it was more difficult to find than you would think. I wanted to see some fire on the cover because that's what the book is about. And the black and white, sometimes I think our black and white covers are as striking as the full color ones. So it just depends on the book, and this particular picture seemed to fit this one.
It's really amazing. I mean, it's an amazing photograph.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. I mean, I even love the typesets. You know, the lettering is just it's perfect.
Well, I have a wonderful graphic artist that does that, so I'm thankful for her assistance. Yeah.
So what is this book about?
Well, part of what I wanted to do when I created this book was to talk about a real lifestyle relationship. A lot of my fiction has been fantasy. Some of it's old world fantasy. Some of it's you know, kind of undoable things. But I really wanted something that was grounded in the lifestyle. And not that this takes place in dungeons, but it's more an intimate book between two people who are coming together at the sort of the middle of their lives, as many people who are in the lifestyle do. They've already had relationships, they may be at the end of one and they're beginning something new, and what it's like to do that with, you know, we all carry our own baggage, and sometimes you bring baggage, and you always bring baggage into your relationship. So it's a little bit about that too, and overcoming some of the fears that they have of entering into a relationship, and seeing how it builds slowly over time. And interjecting there's a lot of discussion between the characters about whether they're going to be dom and sub or they're going to be master and slave. And that's one of the things that they worked out within their relationship. And these were sort of the issues that I was addressing myself when I walked into this new relationship, because I was finding a man who was offering me some things that I didn't have in the long-term relationship I'd had before. And that was a surprise to me. I thought I had myself figured out, and guess what? I didn't. And you know, it's been a lot of fun for that reason.
So he's made a remarkable difference in your life and has given you such. I know when you're in that state, the creativity can just bubble out of you and blossom out of you. But would you be willing to share a little bit of the book? I mean, and read us a passage.
Okay, I had a couple picked out, and neither one of them is very long. I think the one that I'll read is actually about the two people, and it starts with an email that he sent to her regarding. He says, "I remember the first time I whipped a woman. I was in my mid-20s and not very bright. We went to a party. She got drunk, made an ass of herself with my friends. When we got back to the apartment, I smacked her butt a couple times, and she just chuckled. It pissed me off that she didn't take me seriously, so I pulled down her jeans and panties and forced her over my knees. I started spanking her with my bare hand, and when that began to hurt, I pulled my leather belt from my jeans, doubled it in my fist, and started smacking her hard. Felt damn good, as mad as I was. When her ass turned red, I began to smile. I liked the way it felt. The leather belt became a regular part of our sex life. I don't know how she felt about it, but she never made a sound when I used the thing, and she never objected. I hung it in the closet and made her fetch the thing when I wanted to feel it in my hand in the sight of her red ass." And this is Jenny, the character's response. Leather belt? His first kink experience was punishing his girlfriend, reddening her naughty ass with his leather belt! Exclamation point. Jenny's eyes did a double take as she read the email again, and then again. What the fuck did he actually write, leather belt? She checked his words again a dozen times while her heart skipped beats and her libido kicked into high gear once again, like 0 to 60 in 3 seconds high gear. Could he have said anything more stimulating to her erotic mind? Could he have picked a more electrifying image? Had he read her thoughts, peered into her past, had some intuitive flash of inspiration? How the hell could he have known? A happy accident, a quirk of fate, some angelic being whispering in his ear? Of course he couldn't have known. How could he? All this easy conversation about his cottage and sexual fantasies and exposed beams and suspension bars, naked walks through the trees, and where's the piercing? All of it funnel, all of it fueled a growing fire, but nothing hit her like this email did. Out of the wild blue heaven of sexual desires, he hit on the one image that had more power to provoke her lust than any other in an enormous file cabinet of deviant fantasy she'd compiled over many years. From out of her first erotic thoughts, this singular image always appeared front and center, and she was taken back to that time. The fantasy was simple, of a dominant man, a masterful man, holding a leather belt in his fist. She even heard the voice behind it whispering orders in her ear, demanding her obedience. His was a straightforward, no-nonsense kind of discipline enforced by the threat of that long leather belt. The sharp sting of that fantasy belt had been a powerful aphrodisiac all her life, turning meandering erotic thoughts into explosive masturbations once that image appeared. That image alone, that terrifying length of leather doubled in a man's fist. She'd be flying to ecstasy at the thought of her ass beaten red in atonement for her bad behavior. In her inner life, she was always naughty and in need of punishment, lusting for pain it produced and the authoritarian force behind it. The story of his first kink encounter hit her leather belt obsession head on. Almost sounded like a plot device for an erotic novel. But no, this was real time. His past colliding with her most powerful fantasy, and suddenly that leather belt fantasy didn't feel like a fantasy anymore. That image staring out at her from an otherwise innocuous email had sent an erotic shockwave through her that verged on orgasmic. How was this even possible? Without a lick of warning, the game had changed. This phantom on the other side of her emails had unknowingly marched into her sacred territory and staked his claim. Okay, good. That's the response I like.
In the chat room, how did you guys like the reading? Sergio, Master DJ, has just come into the chat room. Welcome. There are a lot of people that are watching. Please come in the chat room because this is... So she's reading his email, and she's reading this, correct? And
yes.
Visualizing all of this.
Yes.
And fantasizing, and her dream has come true to find someone that is capable of doing these perverted things with her that she's always dreamed of.
He had the attitude and the leather belt, so what more could I ask?
You know, I always tell everybody there's not a street in the United States that somebody's not being tied to a bed, blindfolded, and spanked. And so many people, oh, Gracie said she loved it. She loved it. Do you want? You have another part of it that you wanted to read for us, right?
Well, this one's a little bit more of just a fantasy whipping scene. If you'd like to hear that, I'd be happy if I can find it again.
Out there in the chat room, Gracie. If you love that, do you want to go to the fantasy scene? And Miss Friday is still in the chat room, and Sergio and other people, and it's just absolutely. Let's do it. I'm going to put you on camera, and I'm going to take me off. And let's do a reading. And this is what Miss Friday says. Really brings us into her fantasy. I like that. Thank you. Ready?
So you want me to read again? Okay.
Yeah, I'm getting lost in it.
Okay. The remembrance begins late in the evening when the toys come out to play. In his hand they are magic, taking me to places unknown. He orders me to raise my hands and grab the door jamb. He wants my back, a canvas for his playthings, in particular the whip. This nasty number was expertly crafted by a friend in the scene, hand-braided leather with 2 long strands of cowhide anchored at the end. I recall its maker demonstrating the implement of torture on his sub, and how one biting cut of the thing left 2 long streaks on her pretty white shoulder. The marks were side by side, so close they blended into a single wicked welt. Although she barely made a sound, I heard the pain screaming from her body, and my entire insides reacted with arousal. What if it left a welt like that on me? That night he started lightly, warming up. He never followed any routine, not in the bedroom, and certainly not late at night when the dark gremlins from the day emerged from hiding and demand to be appeased. Light was fun. Light was easy and sensuous, but hardly what either of us craved, and not what either of us needed. He picked up speed, and when he felt my energy start to climb, and I could only wonder how hard he'd hit tonight. Into that demon realm, into what demon realm would he take us? I was smiling inside all the way down that rocky road to pleasure. My crotch was wet, my breath shallow. The pheromones in the room signaled our mutual lust. Subspace didn't take long, the point when pain turned into something quite different from pain. When the altered states began, the spasms burst through my body, and the coming began. Later, because I simply couldn't remain on my feet, I sat in my ass before him on the bed and rocked my naked crotch against the sheets as he delivered me into my happy world of surrender. The whip came down hard against my back, on my right shoulder and then the left. I came in one long, continuous flight of body nirvana. I quit my brain, forgot to think, and rode the feeling for as long as he dared to love me with such intimate fierceness. Any moment I knew that he would throw the whip aside, gather me into his arms, and take me, stuffing his prick in my coming pussy. Any minute. Until then, I'd be there waiting as the whip struck and the pain moved through me, coming happily in my prison of love.
It makes me want to be a submissive. But that's how submissive feels.
It does.
You write about what you know.
I do write about what I know.
And
yeah.
I think that is absolutely remarkable. How do you guys like that in the chat room? Please express your, did Gracie and Miss Friday, did your pussy get wet? And Sergio, are you hard yet? So, because you have so much, because you have experience in the lifestyle, and because you're writing about something that you really know, do you think that gives you more of an edge over the content? Because, I mean, I'm not going to put 50 Shades of Grey down. I can't put it down. I'm not going to. I was not impressed with the writing. I stopped at 220 pages. I could not read it. But it has brought in so many people. It has brought so many people to our life choice and to them life choice. And I think that your book has the quality of bringing even more people in. You also have a series called the Alexandra series. And what is that about?
Well, it begins with the first book that I wrote, The Alexander's Awakening, and that was the first story that was sort of stuck in my head. It was sort of the plug in the dam, and when the dam burst, all the rest came out. And this was really my first dom, and it was before I even identified my husband as a dom. I had this masterful man in my head, and it was kind of my take on Story of O had been as it is for many people, one of the first erotic books that I'd read, and probably the best I'd read to that point. But this was kind of my version of the Story of O. It was about a young woman who had a lot of desires, and she was awakening to those desires and trying to discover what they meant. And her lover, who was all confused about this, decided to take her to a friend of his, that was a master. And it's the story of Alexandra meeting Reggie, who is the sort of the master of masters, and at least that's what I thought of him. And I like these characters so much that I continued to write about them, and I introduced other figures. Alexandra does not actually end up with Reggie, but she has a continuing relationship with him as a dom and as a master, and she has her boyfriend, and the stories evolved, and there's 5 of them. And they're now published all in one single volume, or you can get them singly. The 3 in the middle are more spanking oriented, and the original one is BDSM. The 3 in the middle are more spanking oriented, and the last one is more back to the straight BDSM. And they were a pleasure for me to write. I love them. And they were one thing that I wanted to kind of update. I brought them into the 21st century. I updated a lot of the language and added a lot of scenes, and I just basically made Alexander's Awakening the book that I really wanted it to be. As my first book, the original writing was not as satisfying to me as it is now, and it was sort of my labor of love. I won't do that to all my books, my older books, but this one just I was really happy to do that.
I'm going to show the cover for people can see that. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that absolutely extraordinary? I mean, that girl is gorgeous.
She is gorgeous.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is she in the BDSM? Does she?
She looks like she could be, but she makes a perfect Alexandra. Sort of got that submissive innocence to her.
It's absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. So it's a whole series, and people can buy the whole series, just like like the beauty series. Okay, the beauty series, I read all 3 books. I never left the bed.
My favorite was the first. I really liked the first.
I don't. There's one scene in there I can't really talk about the scene publicly because it kind of makes me. It's that cat thing.
Okay.
And it just made me really crazy, and it's I always go to that when I have pages marked, and that was really my first experience in really knowing anything about BDSM, and so when that book came out, what did you think of and did you know who was the writer of that book originally?
I think by the time I got to the book, I did know who it was. That became public. I love the way it opens. I really love the awakening of Sleeping Beauty. I loved her going through the village. That is just one of my favorite scenes, and I've probably adopted a few scenes like that in books that I've written. I like the fact that it was a period book. The later books I didn't like quite as much, and I think perhaps because they went into a little more femdom, and I quite frankly don't enjoy femdom writing. I'm a sub. That's what male dom writing is what I like and what I like to read.
Your company, do you have all different points of views, from femdoms to male dominance to?
Absolutely. We cover it all. We cover a lot of fetish. So we have some writers that write a lot about rubber and bondage and suspension. We have some that have some very, very crazy fantasies. Some of the femdom writers are some of the most creative and clever, and they do the oddest things. I can't quite understand, but we have people that just love reading it, so that's great. I think predominantly we have more male dom, but we do have a lot and sell a lot of femdom as well. So
just reminded me of a femdom story that I wrote that could be used as one of the last stories in redoing my book. I really understand that fact about writing something. I mean, it really resonated with me when you said you wrote the Alexandra series and you beefed it up and you went back and you did things and you monetized it. I can't even say that word. To me, I mean, I can understand going over your work and changing it and taking it into a different direction. I think it's wonderful, because I don't know how many writers actually do that.
Well, like I said, I wouldn't do that for every book, but this was such a special one, and I wanted it to be better than it was. And I think the writing quality, I wanted to pick that up. I wanted to extend and expand some of the scenes and just make them bigger, flesh them out a little bit more.
Well, it's really amazing in the chat room, Gracie, they were listening to your second story, to your reading, and Gracie said it was great. And Ms. Friday go, definitely. And I think Geo may be masturbating. I don't know, because but if you guys in the chat room have any questions, please type them in, because we would love to get the questions to her. Are you just enjoying the show? And so for a new writer, let's see, because we're covering both aspects of you as an author, a very well-respected author, and you as a publisher. What advice would you give a new writer?
Write what you know, what you like, what you feel comfortable with. what turns you on. I think you need to be turned on when you're writing, or at least when you conceive of a novel. And it has to give you pleasure. And I think when you can communicate that through words, you're going to communicate that to your readers. And they will enjoy it on all different kinds of levels. And another thing to do is to write, to just keep writing, because the more you write, the better you'll get.
We have a question from Miss Friday. She's given us two. We've kind of touched on the second question, but we'll go over that again. Because I have two questions for you. What do publishers look for when looking for potential novel?
When it's erotica, the first thing is it an exciting erotic work? Is it going to stimulate people who read it? We look for good stories. I like to see something that's more than just a string of sex scenes. I like to have some sort of plot or some sort of point to the novel beyond that. Character development. You want to feel the characters like they are real people, even if they're very fictional, like they're not, 21st century people. They may be. You may set it in a different setting. You may try something futuristic, but you've got to feel some reality to it that the reader can connect with.
I like that. The reason I rewrote mine was because I felt there was no intrigue. I felt there was no conflict in the character, and I felt that the character was just all about sex, but she needed to have some remorse.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was what was lacking in it, and I think that's what I find in a lot of books, that it's lacking that remorse, that journey that she's on, and that connecting with someone. And my character had everything, and she wanted more, but she had no consequences for her action.
Well, I like to have my characters change and evolve and grow. That's one thing I like to see with my characters, and in general, whether they're male characters or female characters. I like to see the shift and the change, because that's what real life is. We get together with people and we learn things from them. And I don't get preachy about it, but I just like to see my characters evolve.
The other question that Miss Friday asked was, because I wanted, it's very important for us to get their questions out there. We also asked about advice, but there's the last few words in her sentence was regards to the market, because it's really to understand the market of what is the market now in erotic stories. I mean, what are publishers looking for? Is there a certain flavor right now that they're looking for? I mean, it can't all be just BDSM.
That's a tough question, because the market goes all over the place, and there's so many people reading right now, and there's also just an influx of erotica in the marketplace right now. There's so many things to choose from. We find for our publishing company, because we are willing to publish some of the more extreme stories, the things that are non-consensual, those things that are being targeted often by the censors, but people love it. They really enjoy that. But it's a little bit harder to market, because some of the outlets are shying away from that kind of thing. I don't see any problem with a non-consensual story. I think they're lots of fun. I think the kidnapping stories can be they're fun. They are fantasy, and that's how I view them. But often it's for us anyway, for Pink Flamingo, it's the stories that are edgy, that are a little darker maybe. But then again, there's a whole market of people who like the just romance with a little bit of extra sex into it. So there's just a wide variety of possibilities, and I think you have to kind of go with what you love, where your heart's at.
Well, my first name was the Erotic Diary of Beverly Hills Woman, and I lived in Beverly Hills. So when you said the advice of write what you know, I know the city. I know the mentality of the city, and so that's why I was able to write the stories that I wrote in this book. And it was a compilation of stories, and I had to learn. I'm learning how to tie them together, and it's been a really huge learning curve, especially for someone that is severely dyslexic.
I bet. I'm thankful I don't have that problem.
I mean, I don't know punctuations, but one of the questions that I want to ask you, and this is a very off-the-wall question. I get this all the time too. You and I look like we bake cookies.
Yeah, exactly.
When people discover who you are, what you do, what is their reaction to finding out this information?
Um, I'm kind of insulated in my life. Most of my friends are BDSM associated in one way or another. I have been more recently, I've just, go ahead and tell people I'm an erotica writer, and I don't get a lot of questions on that an awful lot. Although I was at dinner with some kink friends of mine, and I had handed my new book to one of my dearest friends, and she's very outrageous BDSM player, and she had to show it to the cute little waitress that came by. Look, my friend just wrote this book, and so she handed it to her, and the girl is reading. The girl is reading the back cover, and her eyes are getting big, and she's, wow, this is exciting. And that's about all I got. It's just sort of amazement, perhaps, more than anything else. Or they just, it's okay. They don't have any problem with the fact that I'm an erotica writer.
Can you read the cover for us?
Pardon?
Read the back cover for us?
Oh, okay, sure. If I can see it here. It's a master-slave romance. Okay. One night, in the wake of a savage thunderstorm, erotica blogger Jenny awakens, driven to her computer with a graphic tale of a masterful man and a surrendering female being bound to a tree, whipped, sexually used, and ultimately loved. Inspired by an online email relationship that began just weeks before, Jenny's dormant libido is suddenly on fire. She's not felt like this since she put her love life on hold following the tragic loss of her long-term love. She and the mysterious Jack Hawking have shared their darkest sexual secrets, but up until now, Jack Hawking was just another fantasy. In a daring move, she sends her tale to Jack. The next morning he calls. No longer is he the mild-mannered man behind the emails, but the master, her master. She's shaken and almost painfully aroused as it becomes clear that he's taken charge. As they move into real time, Jenny is stunned by the Jack's uncanny knowledge of her. She's breaking rules and crossing sexual barriers she once thought set in stone. But is she ready to be not a sub, but Jack's sex slave? She needs to decide, because that's where this explosive affair is headed. However, all is not perfect in real time. Soon enough, the two crash land in the midst of the messy reality of their lives and the baggage from their past. And what did not appear on there, that didn't get on the back cover, is the part about them, can they actually build a relationship in the BDSM lifestyle. So.
I loved it. It was fabulous. I can't wait to read it. I know that it's late for you in Michigan.
Yes.
Want to ask you if you would be willing to spend, because we had a couple minutes of starting late, maybe about 5 more minutes, so I could show your websites. Would that be okay with you?
That would be fine. Thank you.
Great. I'm going to be
First, before you do that, I want to just thank you for this opportunity. This has been just special for me.
Well, I've been following you. Oops, there it goes. Wait, let me get the camera back on so I can see you on the screen. I have been following you for a very long time, and I have gone back and forth to your website countless times.
Well, that's wonderful to hear.
And I never had the courage to write you and to call you. And I think I called you on the phone, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
And that was hysterical. So I'm really excited about having you here.
Well, thank you. It's been exciting for me, because this is all new for me. I've not done anything like this. I haven't put my face to Lizbeth. This is one of the first times I've done that. So.
Well, this is pretty exciting. This is an amazing process to be able to share this with you, and to I'm excited about your book, being out. And before we go into your website, can you tell people where they can buy your book?
Well, you can buy all my books right directly from the website, both in ebook and in paperback. The paperbacks are almost exclusively offered at at my website. The ebooks are also available throughout the internet on all the major sites like Kindle and Google and Smashwords and a variety of others. I think we have 20 different outlets of one sort or another. Some of them are international ones. We have some books that are at Amazon, but that's our only retailer right at the moment, other than our own websites.
And how can people get a hold of you? How can they email you? Is there like info at pinkflamingo.com, or what? How can people get a hold of you?
Well, there's a contact form on the Pink Flamingo website. And by the way, if anybody's interested in publishing, they might take a look at our writer's guidelines, which are also published on the website, the Pink Flamingo website. And there's a contact form there. Or you can catch me on FetLife, or I don't mind, Lizbeth Dusseau at gmail.com. You can email me.
Fabulous. And I'm going to, what we're going to do is right now, I'm going to capture the camera. This is your website. And this is the Pink Flamingo publication website, and this has, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It has, this is the home page, and then we have the about page, and this is all about Elizabeth. This one, I like this. This is, we're going to scroll up and down, and you also have, let's find, you have your ebooks, your paperbacks, banking paperbacks. I like this. So these are the different spanking ones, and if you click on one of these things and open it up, it should open up into a bigger picture, and that looks fabulous. This is a huge website.
There's a lot of books. We have over 400 right now.
Wow, wow. I mean, they feature everything from femdom to male dom to LGBT to spanking to sci-fi, paranoia, vampire, historical, pony and puppy, and ebooks, and what is the omnibus?
Well, those are collections. Some of them are the Femdom Omnibus is I believe that's Orlando's. Is that correct? I can't read it very easily. I haven't caught up with all of them. That's where we've taken all of his stories and put it into one large book. Or we might put 2 or 3 novels by a single author into one book, and just created a larger book. And it's a better price. So if you know somebody that you like, we might have the book. We might have several books by them in one volume.
Oh, that's a great idea. Are ebooks normally less pages than a regular book? And also, can it be a compilation of stories?
It can be a compilation of stories. Basically, the ebooks, we publish the same book as an ebook and a paperback. They're basically the same book.
Wow. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going to your other website. This is your blog. I like this blog. It's very straightforward. It has, look at this in the front. See? It has live Elizabeth's interview tonight. I like this. I think that's great. But I'm not going to click on it because it will take me to the show, and then we'll have feedback and everything will be. And then here is Spontaneous Combustion, where you can read a little bit of excerpt from it, which is fabulous. I like the right here, the About Me. It gives you a little information about Elizabeth. Lizbeth.
Lizbeth. Mm-hmm.
The hard one for me. And it tells you a little bit about her, her story, and she has her blog list here. And so, and are these are your BDSM novels? I mean, you have things listed. I mean, 120 some books or 40 books. I mean, listen to these. Okay, everybody, I got to tell you this: Alexander's Awakening, The Innocent Obsession, Bad Girls, Dangerous Men, Betrayal of a Virgin Bride, Bound for Submissive, Bounty Hunter, Carly on Her Knees, Experiment in Terror, Extremes, Fall from Grace, Force Me to Obey, Honeymoon in Bondage, Ooh, House of Slaves, I Belong to You, Naughty Baby, Naughty Nikki. I mean, these are amazing titles. Woo! Sorry. And then your lighter ones. Your lighter ones is Carolyn's Contact, Dance for Me, Savannah, Members of the Club, Tithered. I like that, Tithered, as the name of the book. These are fabulous. Absolutely fabulous.
Well, thank you. Naming the book can sometimes be the most difficult thing to do.
Oh, I know that. I'm pretty much aware of that. And her blog is at LizbethDusseau .blogspot.com. So make sure that you guys go there to her blog and look at her blog and see her writings. And she has so many of her books listed. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And you've done some romance novels or erotic romance novels.
I don't have them posted there. I kind of lost them in the shuffle. They're coming out soon again.
Will be there. Pagan Dreams, lesbian erotica, and absolutely fabulous. This has absolutely been a joy to be able to sit down and talk to you and to be able to see all the things that you have accomplished. I mean, this is amazing. This is a lifetime's work.
It's been 20 years. 20 years I've been doing this, and I've loved it. I feel very fortunate to be able to have done this. It's been a pleasure to me, and to meet all the great writers that we have too. So.
Are any of your books in audio?
We do have books in audio, and they are listed at Audible. We're working on the technology to do them off of our own website or have a new website to do them. Haven't gotten that far yet, but they are listed at Audible, and I think maybe because Audible's an Amazon company, they may also be listed at Amazon.
Yeah, I do a lot of voiceovers on Fiverr.com, and I do a lot of hypnosis and meditation voiceovers.
Oh, okay.
It's that lower voice, that deep voice that you got. But one of the last questions that I want to ask you is, Lizbeth, there she goes again. That's just sexy. Any regrets?
No. I try not to deal with regret. I mean, there might have been some things I would change, but regrets, no. I can't. I honestly can't think of any.
That is. Are you ever going to come back to California? Because I know that you were a California girl.
I was a California girl. I haven't been back. I don't know. I love it here, but there's, I haven't had any great compelling reason to go back to California, except I love the beach and I love the sourdough bread and I love the crab. You just can't get that in the Midwest, any of those three things. So, yeah, if for no other reason, yeah, it would be fun.
Kind of like almost dead center, aren't you, in Michigan? I mean, you don't get the lakes around. The lakes are, I mean, that's a drive to get to the lakes.
It's only about 60 minutes to get to Lake Michigan. And it's almost like, well, you probably know, but it's almost like an ocean, except that you don't get the waves or the salt air, and that I do miss. Yeah. I miss that.
Yeah, I love California, but I also love Michigan. It was a fabulous place to grow up, except the winters. I understand you're going to have a mild summer this year.
That would be nice. We had a horrific winter, so it would be nice to have a mild summer. Yeah.
I know you guys did. I was there back in December, the beginning of December, during that first snowfall. And
yeah.
Asked me if I wanted to, or my daughter asked me if I wanted to stay a little bit longer, and I said no, I don't think so.
I think that was a good choice.
But I want to thank you, Lizbeth, for coming on the show. I've really enjoyed this. I mean, you're such an inspiration, and for all the people that inspire to be a writer, I hope that this show gives you the possibility of dreaming big and making sure that you can get out there and you can create your stories, and that you can be inspired by someone that has created so many different erotic stories. One that really was, in the beginning, not a really good thing to do. But I want to thank you because of the fact that people didn't accept it as much as they do now. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And thank you very much. This has been a great opportunity for me.
I've really enjoyed it. And don't hang up when we end the show. I want to say a couple words to you before we go.
Okay.
So for watching the Rev Mel Show on TSRnetwork.com, where we are all changing the world one vanilla at a time. Did it again, you creepo.